Welcome to episode 193 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's May 12, 1996. 2 football matches, 2 continents, almost 12,000 kilometers apart. In Avellaneda, Argentina, Carlos Bossio leaves the Estudiantes goal and heads in a late equalizer against Racing Club. In Aarhus, Denmark, Mogens Krogh leaves the Brøndby goal and heads in a late equalizer against AGF. Same day, same position, same emergency, and same solution. Send the goalkeeper forward and hope the game does something irrational. And here's the wild extra layer. A year earlier, these 2 men had already stood opposite each other on the pitch in an international final. Denmark against Argentina in the 1995 King Fahd Cup, with Mogens Krogh in goal for Denmark and Carlos Bossio in goal for Argentina. This is the story of 2 goalkeepers who, on one strange Sunday in 1996, and literally on either side of the world, turned themselves into centre forwards. But how did we get here? We start in Argentina. Carlos Gustavo Bossio is known as Chiquito, or Little, which is football humor at its best because he is enormous. Nearly 2 meters tall, broad, commanding, and already part of Argentina's national team picture in the mid-1990s. He had come through Belgrano, moved to Estudiantes, helped them return from the second division, and in 1995 had been part of Argentina's Pan American Games gold medal squad. A few months after this goal, he would go to the Atlanta Olympics and win silver with Argentina. But on May 12, 1996, he is simply Estudiantes goalkeeper in a clausura match away to Racing. The setting is in the Cilindro in Avellaneda. Racing lead 1-0 through Freita. Estudiantes are running out of time. In the 88th minute, a corner is awarded, and Bossio goes up. And unlike so many goalkeeper goals, this is not chaos after chaos. This is a clean act. The corner comes in, Bossio attacks it, header, goal. Racing 1, Estudiantes 1. The first goalkeeper in Argentine professional football to score from open play with his head. That alone would have been enough for the day. But in Denmark, a few hours and almost 6,500 miles away, the same football gods were apparently still at work. AGF against Brøndby at Aarhus Stadion. This was not just another league match. This is the Danish title race. AGF are second, Brøndby are first. 1 point separates them, and there are 3 points for a win. The stadium is packed. Even Crown Prince Frederik is there. It is, in Danish football terms, a gold match. Brøndby lead 1-0 through Peter Møller just before halftime. Then AGF turned the game around. Thomas Thorninger scores twice. Henrik Mortensen makes it 3-1. AGF are heading for first place. Then Ebbe Sand pulls one back, 3-2. And at the 87th minute, Brøndby win a corner. Mogens Krogh goes forward. Krogh is not just any goalkeeper. He is the man Brøndby brought in after selling Peter Schmeichel to Manchester United in 1991. That is not an easy inheritance. Schmeichel is already a Danish icon, a European champion, and one of the most aggressive goalkeepers football has seen. He is also scoring in his blood. Early in his career, he had headed a late equalizer in Denmark, and later he would score for Manchester United in Europe and for Aston Villa in the Premier League. Krogh is different, less famous internationally, but solid, experienced, and trusted. He has been around Brøndby long enough to understand the stakes. The first corner does not quite produce the clean Hollywood moment. Krogh gets up for it, but the ball is going out. Ruben Bakker keeps it alive near the line. P. Nielsen recycles the play. The ball comes back into the area. Krogh is still there. Second chance. Header. Into the roof of the net. AGF 3, Brøndby 3. So what did it mean? Well, for Estudiantes, Bossio's goal became history more than destiny. They had arrived at the stage of the clausura with ambition, but the draw did not launch them to the title. Vélez Sarsfield won the tournament. Estudiantes finished 9th, so the table moved on. Bossio's career moved on too. In 1999, he went to Benfica. Later, he returned to Argentina, became a major figure at Lanús, and in 2007 captained the club to the Apertura title, Lanús's first top-flight championship. So his career was not only one header, but that header remains the image. Chiquito Bossio flying into the Racing area, too tall to be called little, too unexpected to be marked. For Brøndby, Krogh's goal mattered immediately. The 3-3 draw meant AGF did not overtake them. Brøndby stayed top. The title was not sealed that day, but the psychological balance changed. Krogh later said it was the start of a new golden period, and 2 weeks later, Brøndby won the 95-96 Danish title by 1 point. 1 point. That is the entire meaning of the goal. Without Krogh's header, AGF go above them. With Krogh's header, Brøndby remain in front. And then Brøndby kept going, champions in 96, 97 and 98. The equalizer in Aarhus becomes not just a freak goal, but the ignition point of a championship sequence. And the King Fahd Cup coincidence gives this story its final strange symmetry. On January 13, 1995 in Riyadh, Denmark beat Argentina 2-0 in the final of the King Fahd Cup, the competition that would become the Confederations Cup. Mogens Krogh was in goal for Denmark. Bossio was in goal for Argentina. They had met across an international final, and 16 months later, on the same day, both of them scored late-headed equalizers for their clubs. Football does not usually write in rhymes, but this time it did. So where do Bossio and Krogh sit in the pantheon of scoring goalkeepers? Well, there are several kinds of goalkeeper goals. There's the additional long kick, Charles Williams for Manchester City in 1900, as we discussed in episode 165. Pat Jennings in the 1967 Charity Shield. Peter Schmeichel in the same era. Asmir Begovic for Stoke in 2013, the 13-second thunderclap from episode 2. There is the specialist set-piece goalkeeper, Jorge Joseni, Luis Chilavert, Hans-Jörg Butt, goalkeepers who took penalties or free kicks as part of the job. And then there's the emergency striker goalkeeper. That is the rarest and most cinematic category. Michelangelo Rampula for Cremonese in 1992, heading in a last-minute equalizer against Atalanta. Gregory Wimbe for Nancy later that year. Peter Schmeichel for Aston Villa in 2001, volleying in after a corner. Brad Friedel for Blackburn in 2004, scoring in a scramble. Then there's Jimmy Glass for Carlisle in 1999, maybe the most dramatic of all, saving Carlisle's Football League status with a stoppage time goal. And Alison Becker for Liverpool in 2021, heading in at West Brom, and like Bossio and Krogh, it was the last minute and after a corner. Alison becoming the first goalkeeper to score a headed Premier League goal. Ivan Provedel for Lazio in 2023, heading in against Atletico Madrid in the Champions League. That is the club these goals belong to. Not routine scorers, not novelty penalty takers, but goalkeepers who crossed the halfway line because the match has reached the point where logic was no longer enough. Before we go, 3 things to take away from May 12, 1996. First, Carlos Bossio and Mogens Krogh did almost the same extraordinary thing on the same day, almost 12,000 kilometers apart, late-headed equalizers after corners. Second, the goals had very different table meanings. Bossio's became a historic Argentine curiosity. Krogh's became a Danish title moment, preserving Brøndby's 1-point edge over AGF. And third, the King Fahd Cup connection is the perfect absurdity. These two scoring goalkeepers had faced each other in an international final only 16 months earlier. On this day in 1996, Carlos Bossio in Argentina and Mogens Krogh in Denmark both left their goal lines, went up for late corners, and headed themselves into one of football's and the OTD podcast's beloved column of trivia. That is all for episode 193 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. Tomorrow, go to May 13, 1902, and to the first Classico. See you tomorrow.